Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. Our guest today is Colonel Scott Cain, who in July succeeded Colonel Todaro as the commander at Arnold Engineering Development Center, more commonly known to us as AEDC or the Center. Been around for a while. So, Colonel Cain, welcome, and thanks for joining us. And before we start talking about AEDC, how about giving us a little background on Scott Cain?
Sure. So I'm a Michigan native. I am here at AEDC with my wife Michelle and my two kids, Nadia, who's 12, and Evan, who's 9. Both of them are in school in Tullahoma at East Middle School and at Robert E. Lee Elementary.
Okay.
I went to the Air Force Academy after high school and became a pilot and flew the F-16 and the F-117 operationally before I went to the test pilot school at Edwards.
Now, the F-16, I think, is pretty well known. I must admit, the 117 is called the Nighthawk or something. I've forgotten. What did it do?
That's right. That's the stealth fighter. So there's a stealth bomber, the B-2, and a stealth fighter, the F-117,
okay.
Which is now retired from the inventory. But a first generation Air Force stealth platform that preceded our now stealth platforms of the F-22, F-35.
Okay.
And then after I flew the F-117, I went to test pilot school and have been doing flight test for about the last decade. So flight testing the F-16, among other aircraft, most recently the F-35 at Edwards. And I also was at the staff a couple of times in D.C., in between those assignments as I bounced around the flight test center doing flight test. So I served at the Pentagon and Office of Secretary of Defense, and I also was at DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, on a fellowship. Most recently at Edwards Air Force Base, and arrived here this summer to take command of Arnold.
Right. And I noticed a comment the other day that this is the second time that you have succeeded Colonel Todaro.
That's right. So I've been following the Todaros around for a few years. They've had a profound impact on the lives of the Cains. But great family. He's a great leader. Good. And it's been a pleasure to be able to follow him. So that was at Edwards the first time, and now here at Arnold.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, with that, folks, let's take a short commercial break, and we'll come back and talk some Arnold Center.
All I have to do to think about what I was physically before and what I am now, and I don't ever want to go back to that original situation.
The overall mission of the rehab team is always what is best for the patient and how we can facilitate maximum potential from every resident.
Well, the most important thing to me is that I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do,
Everyday Miracles, Life Care Center of Tullahoma.
Tired of paying for monthly telephone service, expensive long-distance bills, and all those crazy taxes? Are you sick of spending money on telephone equipment, maintenance contracts, and service calls, all for a phone system that shackles you to 100-year-old technology and your desk? Stop it. It's time to ship your phone system to the cloud. What can the cloud do for you? Bring together remote offices, workers, and employees in the field. Make sure that you'll never miss calls by delivering them to multiple devices. Modernize faxing by allowing multiple faxes to be sent and received at once. And deliver to email. Get your voicemail messages instantly through email too. And take advantage of an endless supply of customizable features. Host My Calls can deliver the cloud. All of this technology with low upfront costs and not one penny in capital expense. It's time for a phone solution you'll truly love from Host My Calls. Call the number below.
We're talking today, folks, with Colonel Scott Cain, who is the new commander at AEDC. So, Colonel Cain, let's begin. AEDC has been here forever, it seems like, since the late 50s, I think.
That's right.
And but we tend to forget what's really involved out there. Give us a little reminder, if you will, of the size and significance of the center.
Sure. So the size that you're most familiar with is Arnold itself, which is a little more than 2,000 employees, and that includes the government, military, civil servant, and also the contractor workforce. I think the biggest change that's happened in the last year is that the Chief of Staff of the Air Force designated AEDC as the as a wing equivalent organization, and two, consolidated all the ground test facilities in the Air Force under AEDC. So what that's resulted in...
All the ground tests.
Right. So...
Okay.
So we call what we do at AEDC in the wind tunnels, in the engine test facilities, ground test, which precedes flight test, which happens at a place like Edwards Air Force Base. So there are ground test sites throughout the Air Force Test Center, which previously were underneath different wings. So what the Air Force has done and the Air Force Test Center have done is to consolidate those under AEDC. So in addition to that ground test that we do here at Arnold, now there are almost triple the number of sites that are in AEDC. So we previously had wind tunnels on the East Coast and West Coast that were what we call geographically separated units. But now we also have, under the AEDC umbrella, under that wing equivalent organization, a lab at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, a test group in New Mexico, which includes a flight test group, a flight test squadron, a high-speed test track, the National Radar Test Facility, a INS GPS test facility. That group also has a test force at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico that is working on directed energy programs. So AEDC has about tripled in size as far as the number of sites it has, and that also about doubled in size the workforce.
Yeah.
And the corresponding budget increase that came with that.
Sounds to me like we ought to go back to being a general level organization.
And so the plan now is for it to remain a colonel level wing equivalent, where the commander is treated throughout the Air Force as a wing commander. Most other installations have colonel wing commanders, so that's the plan right now, is to keep at that level. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your. Well, you might. Let's talk a bit about the capability of the center, and maybe including some of the others too.
Okay.
The flight levels that you have, and your simulation, and all of this is. What are you doing, and why is it good?
Right. Yeah, and that's a great question. So, the Air Force is a good message to get across. Is the Air Force recognizes what it is that AEDC does, and it's more important now than ever. So the Air Force is going through a period of modernization, which we haven't seen probably since the 80s. So we talked about that F-16, an 80s era fighter, which was developed in part here at Arnold and AEDC. What the Air Force has considers itself is I've heard the analogy of a light switch, that the nation is able to flip the switch and the Air Force is there. So we are in always there kind of posture, whether that is doing surveillance from space or from the air or in the cyber domain. But what that has resulted in is that that fleet of aircraft, that equipment that the Air Force has aged, and so there's a period of modernization going on right now that we're kind of at the bow wave of. Platforms you've heard of, like the F-35, the KC-46, the B-21, and to develop all those before you go to flight test, you need these ground test facilities like the ones that we have at Arnold and across AEDC now. So all of those go into why this is now a wing equivalent organization, why we've decided that we can combine these ground test facilities and get more bang for the buck out of having them combined, that I can more effectively work across those organizations, I can sustain them and make them more effective for the ground test that's leading this this wave of modernization that we haven't seen in decades in the Air Force. So when it comes to the importance of the facility,
you're really talking primarily about new hardware, new equipment.
That's it, and that's everything from the wheels and brakes that we're testing at Wright-Patterson at one of those new facilities, to hypersonic vehicles of the future, which we have capabilities that we're building at Arnold to test those that will eventually enter the fleets of the Air Force in particular. So when it comes to what's the importance of it, we cover the whole spectrum from slow speed wind tunnels and the like I said, the wheels and brakes on the aircraft, to hypersonics and space systems that are part of our strategic deterrent, and the Air Force has recognized that and is investing heavily in those ground test capabilities that support that modernization. Okay.
We want to talk a little bit more about hypersonics later on. And you have tested just about everything that's in the air.
That's
somewhere
right.
Back down the line, haven't we? All the airplanes, military planes.
That's right.
Missiles, launch facilities of some flavor.
That's right. It is all touching Arnold and AEDC in some form, and that's not just Air Force. That's across the Department of Defense, Navy systems that we partner with the Navy and test. Research and development that we partner with the Air Force Research Lab, with NASA, and you can see out in front of
NASA's in there also. Yeah,
that's right. And you can see all the aircraft that are out in front of Arnold Air Force Base that are legacy aircraft that have, some of which are still in the inventory, but all the new aircraft that are going to be coming into the inventory, like I mentioned. F-35, KC-46 that are going to be in the Air Force inventory for decades to come are getting tested in AEDC. Yeah, so it's a really important capability for the nation.
But it'll be a while before we can have a copy of any of those out in front of the center.
It will. I would love to have an F-35 to put out there, but those are valuable resources right now that we're not ready to put them on sticks yet.
That's a lot of money for a toy sightsee. Okay, very good. Well, I think with that, folks, let's take a short commercial break, and we'll come back and go some more.
Keith Barnett here with the Russell Barnett Automotive family. Over 75% of car shoppers today use the internet to search for their new or pre-owned vehicle. That's why the RussellBarnett.com website is so versatile, where you can check it anytime, all the time, online. You can search through our new and pre-owned inventory by make, model, mileage, or price. We can value your trade-in and get you pre-approved for financing before you even walk in the door. So check out RussellBarnett.com, and remember, why buy anywhere else?
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
It's your trademark. That's something special everyone knows and remembers. It's your thing. It's made holidays special for decades and summers unforgettable for the entire neighborhood. It's made everyone laugh every single time. Don't let illness or injury keep you from doing your thing. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live well.
I'm meteorologist Leland Statham from the News Channel 5 Weather Center. Look to Jim Fuller and crew for local news night here on Channel 6.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Colonel Scott Cain, who is the new commander at AEDC. And we're getting up to date on not only him, but on what's going on out there, and so we'll go some more. Let's talk about how you see your workload over and budget situation over the foreseeable future, whatever that is.
Yeah, so
how foreseeable is the future?
So we have a high fidelity picture of what the next year's workload is, and it's high. AEDC is busy. I can give a couple of examples. Some of our facilities are operating even right now, before the next fiscal year starts, on a not quite 24/7, but 24/6 cycle, so 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, to accomplish the test workload that we have. So we're busy at AEDC. The other part of your question is, how far out can we see that? I can tell you that we expect the workload to continue to increase over the next several years. So for about the 3 to 5 year horizon that I can see, there's a high workload that's going to be coming into the complex.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of new development, and all of that generates testing.
And part of that is the modernization that I talked about. There's another part of that work that's flowing into Arnold and across AEDC, which is a service life extension program. So I talked about the value that the Air Force and the DoD sees in AEDC. They've decided to invest several $100 million into the facilities, which we're in the first year of that. We have obligated under that program a little over $80 million put on contract to upgrade the facilities at Arnold and across the complex. So if you think about it, a lot of that facility was built when the facility stood up, and it has been updated periodically, but now we're going through a major update that is good news, because it means that AEDC is going to be viable for literally decades based on those upgrades. So over the next 5 years, we have a program that's about at that level, that dollar figure that I quoted, that year after year we're going to be making those kind of upgrades to our engine test facilities, to our arc heaters that are out there, to the wind tunnels, and also to those other sites that are now part of AEDC as well. Will be part of that service life extension program. So that's a big deal for AEDC and the Air Force.
For the foreseeable future, yeah. Well, that's interesting, and most of us are aware, but I guess we don't think about it, that a lot of your test facilities have been there a long time.
That's right.
A bunch of years.
That's right. There's some equipment there that is from when AEDC stood up, like you mentioned at the beginning in the 50s.
Yeah. So, well, very good. And as far as you can see now, you don't worry about too many years in the future money-wise, but as far as you can see, you've done okay this year, and you're pretty comfortable with what's coming up for FY18?
I am, and the budgets are stable or increasing, and then if you add on those service life extensions, there's a lot of budget authority that is being invested into Arnold. So it's a good picture for Arnold and AEDC.
Good. And for the rest of us. So,
right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about. You got a new, I'm not sure what you call them, but a new tenant that's moved in with you. That's part of the Air Force Research Lab out of Wright Pat, I believe. That's the hypersonic test facility, and it was going to take them for a while. I know they've been here a year or better.
That's right.
It's going to take them a while to get their lab set up. Are they pretty well there?
Yeah. So our AFRL tenant is established at Arnold. When you talk about hypersonics at Arnold, it's wider than that AFRL tenant moving here. There are multiple facilities that support hypersonics, which is generally defined as greater than Mach 5 testing. So
Mach 5, which is how fast? Remind us.
So 5 times the speed of sound at sea level. If you multiplied it by roughly 700, that'd be.
We're looking at.
Math in public is dangerous, but 3,500.
35, yeah.
Right. So the hypersonics group at AFRL has joined us, I will say. They're working on the development side of a lot of hypersonics research that we're supporting. We're also in the process of standing up our own CTF, Combined Task Force, that supports hypersonics. So one of the additions to AEDC that I didn't mention is a hypersonics test group that's out at Edwards Air Force Base, which is now part of AEDC. So we have our hypersonics test force here at AEDC, which includes Air Force Research Lab. It includes a geographically separated unit at Edwards that is tied directly to flight test and platforms, for example, that might launch a hypersonic vehicle. And hypersonics, just like that service life extension program, is getting a large infusion of dollars and support from the Air Force. About the same level as that service life extension program that I mentioned is going into hypersonics, and almost all of that is going into AEDC facilities. So we have, in addition to the stand-up of the AFRL group that's here, we have additional facilities that are being recrafted, I'll say, and upgraded to support hypersonics capabilities that will eventually enter our inventories in the coming years. So hypersonics is a big growth area and a lot of investment going on in that for the Air Force.
It looks like the future. Tell us why that's important, that we have a hypersonic capability.
Yeah.
What are we going to be flying up there at 3,500 miles an hour or 4,000?
It's a great question. There's not a plan for a person to be in that. So these are hypersonic weapons are what we're talking about. The Air Force and the Department of Defense are investing in capabilities that will keep us ahead of our adversaries. So there's a portfolio of those. I mentioned directed energy and the fact that AEDC is involved in directed energy testing, so lasers, high-powered directed energy weapons. Hypersonics is another one of those. So the strategy, if we can go to that level is that we want to have superior technology to our adversaries. And in order to do that, you have to invest in the development and then test of those capabilities. And hypersonics is one of those that is a game changer, both from the tactical level, but also it'll affect how we invest in the Air Force, how we man our units. So it has broad-reaching impacts. If we're going to bring this technology into our weapon systems, of how we will look in the future. So we're on the leading edge of that, and there's a big infusion of money going into Arnold for that capability.
Okay, very good. Well, guess what? We've run out of time, folks. We're going to have to take a short commercial break and wrap up.
Buying a vehicle can be hard. It's even harder if you have poor credit health. But let the team here with Dr. Credit at Russell Barnett Kia help you. With our guaranteed credit approval process, we can help you find your next vehicle. But don't just take that from me. Here's a few of our customers and what they had to say.
They said they could approve us, and then the next thing was how much monthly. I thought it was going to be way too much. And sure enough, he did it what we asked for, what we needed it to be. He did it within. He will help you out.
Schedule your appointment with Dr. Credit at Russell Barnett Kia so you can drive away happy.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We're back, folks, and we've been talking today with Colonel Scott Cain, the new commander at Arnold Center, which is, Arnold Center has now grown, we've found out. So with that, Colonel Cain, do you have a word you might like to say direct to the folks out there?
Yeah, sure. The message that I wanted to pass is that the Air Force has chosen a unique way to accomplish its mission in AEDC, and that is by a partnership between the Air Force and the installation and the local community. And the only way that that's effective is with the support of that community. And since I've been here, that support has been incredible. It's great to see that relationship that we have that makes us able to do that mission. So we're, as I've said, investing in Arnold, but we're also invested in the community, which is integral to our operation.
It's a very significant organization for the whole area here, and now other parts of the country that they have grown. Well, Colonel Cain, I want to thank you very much for taking time to join us. We appreciate it, and good luck in your venture. And with that, folks, we will see you next time.